we do get started, for those of you who do not know Joanne, she has been at this for over 30 years. I love the title that she has been called for so often, a reporter of the universe. And she has a strong connection with the Edgar Cayce Association since 1987, and also Atlantic University, as we were talking about earlier. She has her master's in transpersonal studies, her spiritual mentorship certificate from there, and she also has hypnotherapy training as well. And Joanne was one of the co-founders, the original co-founders of the Reincarnation Symposium. So back in 2019, we started planning, and of course, you know what happened in 2020? We had the COVID, but that didn't stop us. And she is a prolific author. So many of her books, you may have been with our previous book clubs, and she's talked about them. Karma Can Be a Real Pain. I Did It to Myself. The Edgar Cayce and the Unfulfilled Destiny of Thomas Jefferson Reborn. Inner Lights, her book about the Beatles. And the last one she talked about was Soulmates and Twin Souls. So we are just so excited to have you, Joanne, here to talk about your revised version of soul writing. I can't wait to hear what's new and different about this one. So with that being said, take it away.
Okay. Thanks a lot, Carol. I'm so glad to be here with you again. I just love being with my like-minded people. As my daughter and son used to say when I used to go to ARE programs, Mom's going to be with her people. So any chance I get to be with my people, I love it. So here you are, my people. What I'd like to do is I've got a PowerPoint which will go through the highlights of the book to show you all the different ways that you can use soul writing. It'll tell you what it is, what it isn't, the difference between it and automatic writing, and then ways you how to actually go about doing it. And then I will do a reverie at the end where you can actually try the soul writing on your own. So if you have paper and pencil nearby, or if you need to get it, please do so, okay? So Carol, with your permission, I'll start my PowerPoint. All right, hope everybody can see that. So the second go around, the first book I did was in 2011, and it was actually my thesis for my master's degree. And one of my professors said, you know, this would make a really good book, Joanne. And I said, you know, I think it would. So I did turn it into a book. And then since then, I've been collecting additional information, and which has resulted in 2 new chapters, plus additional information in the existing chapters. So it's a larger version of the first book. And then I also did a journal to go with it. So it's a hardcover lined journal that includes excerpts from the book as writing prompts. I've always wanted to do a journal as well. So I thought, well, they go together really nicely. So anyway, that's what they look like. So what is soul writing? Good question, right? Okay, so if you think of prayer as you talking to God, and meditation is God talking to you, then soul writing is basically you taking notes. It's writing in an altered state of consciousness. And we'll go into how to do that a little bit later. In the 1990s, I went to a ARE conference in Chicago about how to develop your psychic abilities. And they gave out a booklet, and in it had dangerous doorways to psychic experience. So these were the 6 things that ARE said are not recommended if you're seeking to increase your psychic abilities. Automatic writing was number 1. Ouija board was number 2. And at that time, I was doing both. I think this was like maybe 3 years into my esoteric journey. So I thought, and I didn't know any better. I didn't know, I only knew automatic writing. I didn't know anything else. I didn't realize that Edgar Cayce had written extensively about this. But after that, I started to study it in earnest. And what I found is this. When I did a search on Amazon, um, if you typed in automatic writing, you would get all occult books. If you typed in inspirational writing, which is what Edgar Cayce called this writing, you got all books in the Christian genre. So, because Cayce used the term inspirational writing in the 20s, 30s, and 40s when he was giving his talks, it no longer had the same definition of what he meant it for. So I thought, well, what else could I call it? And I thought, well, it's coming from your soul. It's divinely inspired, coming from above through your soul and then out your hand. So I thought I'll call it soul writing. So that's what I've done. I've since trademarked that. What's the difference between the two? Well, with soul writing, you get the collective consciousness coming through. You get the we message. We are with you always in love and in light. We are with you, so you are in the light of God, so fear nothing. When you're doing automatic writing, you're very often getting the ego-based I am here. I am telling you what to do, that sort of thing. Soul writing is coming from within you, so it's coming through your soul out. Automatic writing is sometimes coming from an outside source. And one of the reasons that the ARE was, and Edgar Cayce was telling people not to do automatic writing was because they had several cases of possession. People who came to the ARE to get help because they were using automatic writing and something went wrong and they were in trouble. So when you do this sort of writing, and all of you I'm sure know, when you open yourself up and you don't meditate or use a prayer of protection or white light, you're inviting in a way for some low level energies or to come through. And that's what happens with automatic writing. And that's because with automatic writing, you don't usually do a meditation, and you don't say a prayer of protection, and you don't surround yourself with white light, which you do for soul writing. Those are the three things I tell people. You could forget about all the other steps, but make sure you always meditate. And by meditation, I mean simply just taking a deep breath, getting into a relaxed state, just the way you would normally meditate. But you could do a shortcut of that if you want. Picture a white bubble all around you so that it's impenetrable, and then say whatever prayer of protection you want. I have one that I use that I'll say tonight, but you can make up one, or Unity has a wonderful prayer of protection you could use. With soul writing, you're always aware of exactly what you're writing when you're writing it. With automatic writing, often you have no awareness at all of what's coming on the paper. You don't know what you've written until you've written it and you go back and look at it. With soul writing, you just allow and consciously watch the writing proceed. With automatic writing, you have no control of your hand. It just happens by itself. And on top of that, with automatic writing, your handwriting is usually different than what your handwriting is when you're in a conscious state. With soul writing, your handwriting is the same. I mentioned the prayer. And then for me, one of the biggest differences between the two is with soul writing, your soul is being very gently guided, like it's being nudged in a certain direction. Whereas with automatic writing, you are sometimes being directed or impelled or told you have to do something. So it's much more forceful. It's much more aggressive in giving it you information. So what can you use it for? Well, how do you apply this to your life? And there's so many ways. My favorite way, one of my favorite ways, is to use it with past life exploration, because I do a lot of research in reincarnation, and I do past life regressions with folks, and I often add it to the end of the regression. And why do I do that? Because with the soul writing, in the course of a regression, you can't get everything out that happened in one particular lifetime. With the soul writing, you can often go back and say, well, I don't understand this. I have questions, or maybe you didn't get much information in the regression and you want the background of, Maybe you didn't say much about your biological family and you want to know, where did I come from? Did I have any siblings? You can go back with the soul writing and you can ask those questions. Or you can just say, okay, I had this past life regression. What am I supposed to do with this information now? And the soul writing will enable you to have to get guidance as to how to apply it to your life now. You can also have a conversation with your own past life aspect, who you were in a previous life. And I learned that from Frank DeMarco, who was the co-founder of Hampton Roads Publishing Company. Frank wrote a wonderful book called Chasing Smallwood. And in that book, he has a conversation with Joseph Smallwood. Well, Joseph Smallwood was Frank during the Civil War. And so there's this wonderful conversation that goes on between them. And it's like talking to somebody who's alive in that time period, and they're telling you exactly what's going on. So it's not revisionist history in any way, shape, or form. It's exactly as they remember it. And it's very fascinating. And I ended up doing that myself with one of my past lives. So you can learn to do that with the soul writing. You can get guidance on any topic you want. If you have a question about what is an animal totem, or give me spirit's definition for karma, or what does it mean to live in the present moment, or what's my soul's purpose, or what's a spirit guide. You can ask a specific question and you'll get a specific answer. So it's like creating your own encyclopedia of metaphysical terms. What do these words mean from spirit's perspective, not from Webster or Wikipedia or any of that? It's what does spirit have to say about any topic at all that you can think of. You can use it to develop your psychic abilities. This is a reading from Edgar Cayce. Those of you who don't know Cayce well, when a reading number is given, like 1500-4, what it means is 1500 represents the person that he was giving the reading for. They did not use names because they wanted to really safeguard a person's anonymity. So 1500, I don't know who that was, but Mr. or Miss 1500-4 means it was the fourth reading that Cayce did. But Cayce was talking about psychic abilities, where he said every entity has clairvoyant, mystic, psychic powers. The institutional, which is both clairvoyant and psychic, is the higher development. So he's saying all of us have psychic abilities to some extent. It just depends on whether we are doing anything about it. Using soul writing, you can enhance those abilities. For instance, if you've had a psychic experience in your life, you could go in and ask for an explanation. This is what happened. What was that? You can ask, how do I learn to see auras? You can ask about totem animals and elementals. You can ask about animal communication, how to work with different energies, how to engage in telepathic conversations with loved ones that have passed on. Or, you know, if you're interested in crystals, you could give information. It almost becomes like a primer in any given topic. You can engage with spirit in a conversation about these topics, and they can give you step-by-step directions on how to do that. You can use it in various art forms because it's the same identical process. When I say process, I mean it's the meditation, the prayer of protection, the surrounding with white light. So artists can use it. You know, they can go into a meditation, they can ask their higher self, their guardian angel, you know, or source to come in and inspire them to do a painting on canvas, or to compose a music, or create a sculpture, or a sand sculpture. Anything that you're doing that involves art can be divinely influenced using that process of meditation, prayer, and the white light. In my book, I've added, one of the things I've added are about famous composers. I had them in the previous book, but what I added was Paul McCartney, John Lennon, and Paul Simon, all three of whom used a process like soul writing in writing some of their music. Many of them got the music in a dream, and they woke up and feverishly tried to get it down, you know, usually in one sitting. Even John Lennon said he felt like he was getting it from another source that was coming through him. He knew he was being divinely inspired. When he did Across the Universe, that was one of the songs he said that how that came. Paul McCartney with Let It Be and Yesterday. And then Paul Simon, when he was doing one of his albums, talked about the same thing. So it's the same process. But this goes back hundreds of years. Mozart used it, Beethoven used it, Tchaikovsky used it. Many authors like William Keats and Robert Louis Stevenson, and I can't think of all of their names, but they're in the book. And they talk about using the same process, that they feel like they're being inspired and guided from a higher plane. I used it to write poetry. I don't write poetry. I actually don't really like poetry. But I love famous quotations. It's like I used to, when I was first learning to meditate, I would open my book of quotations, pick a quotation, read it, focus on it. And then one day, as I was doing that, I got a response. So when I was reading this one, whatsoever thy hand findeth to do, do it with thy might, I started writing, you have it within you to achieve a greatness limited only by the boundaries of your belief in yourself. I believe in you. I thought, what is this? I don't write like this. So after a while, I realized these would make really cool greeting cards. Well, I had a devil of a time getting them published. I couldn't find an artist to illustrate them. And I had 5 cards that I wanted to do. And so finally, a graphic artist friend of mine said, why don't you do black and white nature photography? I have a photographer friend and he's taken these pictures and I'm sure you could work something out with him. So that's what I did. And my graphic designer friend picked out the paper that they were on. And because of the paper that he chose, we had to run 16,000 cards and envelopes because there were 5 different shades of color, slightly different from each other. And so I did this. One of the cards that I did, I entered in the International Greeting Card Association's award competition. It's like the Oscars of the greeting card industry. And it was a sympathy card. That was the category that I entered it in. And it was actually chosen as one of 6 in the world for its creative excellence. And I was like, I don't know if I should accept this, because I thought, I didn't really write this. It came through me. I remember writing it, but then again, I thought, I don't write like this. Well, anyway, I was honored by being a finalist. Didn't really result in selling any cards. As a matter of fact, my basement is full of boxes of unsold cards. So now I'm giving them away. Because I want them out to people rather than try. I'm not a good marketing salesperson. But anyway, I went back to Spirit and I said, hey, you told me these were going to be really great greeting cards. And look, I hawked my house to do them and I haven't sold any. And they said, well, we didn't tell you to print 16,000 of them, Joanne. Oh, smarty. Fine. The other thing you can use it for is to explore esoteric philosophy. So you're going to find that different teachers are going to come in for different topics. They'll give you a perspective that you wouldn't even consider in a conscious state. So the question I was asking one summer day as I was sitting on my front porch, I said, I was thinking about universal laws because I didn't know how many there really were. I had heard anywhere from 50 to 200. I thought, well, okay, I'm going to ask Spirit about this. So I said, well, hey, what's the difference between universal laws and the 10 Commandments? Whoops. And I ended up with a 2-week course. A different teacher came in to talk about this. And it's in my book. I have a whole chapter on each of the 10 Commandments, what they meant at the time they were written, and why they're different from universal laws. But the message that I got the first day that I was writing about this was, there is no universal law that begins, thou shalt not. Now, in a conscious state, I never would have written that. That is just not something that would have been in my memory bank. So I knew I was writing with some help from the outside world here. You can use it for psychoanalysis and healing, because writing like talking has a very cathartic quality. So when you do the soul writing, it produces much deeper levels of insight. And when I first was diagnosed with lymphoma in 2018, I started using it for healing purposes, and it gave me a lot of comfort and confidence that I would make it through. And it really was a lifeline for me. And I've heard that over and over again from people who have had a major health issue, and they do the soul writing because you're in touch with your guide, your angel, or God, whoever you want to believe it to be, and so there's that healing quality there. I used it at the end of one of my books, Karma Can Be a Real Pain, which was tracing chronic conditions in this life to a past life. And what we would do at the end of the regression was we would do the soul writing, and in many of those cases, the soul writing is what alerted people as to the actual source of the origin of their condition. And I had about a 35% rate of spontaneous healing, it just knowing what the source was. And they got that through the soul writing. I had one person who had asthma, and I didn't know he had asthma. He went to a past life in Pompeii, and he had suffocated in the ash and the gas. And when we did the regression, he went to that life, and then his first line in his soul writing was asthma, the result of seared lungs. And I was like, whoa. And after that, the asthma disappeared. So I have a lot of stories like that in the book. I like to use it for soul's growth because I'm the kind of person, I used to always say, why is it this way? Why this? Why that? I don't get it. And the soul writing takes me to, oh, I see, I get it. Makes perfect sense. So it creates a shift in your consciousness. And then as you grow, the message expands as well. So people often ask in soul writing, what's my mission in life? That's like the number one question I get when I ask people, why are you coming for a regression? I don't know why I'm here. I want to know what my mission is. So those are just some of the questions that you can ask. I have a whole list of questions I'll share with you. The other thing you could use it for, and this is especially good for practitioners, is, and there's a whole chapter in my book on, a new chapter in my book on soul writing for practitioners. And that is to be in service to others. Mr. Cayce said in one of his readings, you'll not be in heaven if you're not leaning on the arm of someone you have helped. So when I did my master's degree, I studied the companion mode of healing, which is based on shamanic journeying, in which you obtain information on behalf of somebody else. You always need to ask their permission before you do this. But if you're a practitioner, social worker, therapist, whatever, this can often give you much deeper understanding of what your client is going through, provided they tell you it's okay to ask. So I teach this, like this is the very last element of the course. I wait till the end, and then we pair up, and we get a message in soul writing, then the other person reads it, and then they get a response to it. So it's very powerful stuff. So there's a whole chapter in the book on the responsibility that practitioners have and how to use this particular tool. The other new chapter, which I don't have in my PowerPoint, is a chapter on soul writing for children. I've wanted for a long time to explore how this could be mainstreamed a little bit and taught to children in school. And I have 3 grandchildren, a 4-year-old, a 7-year-old, and a 9-year-old. And I was going to work with the 9-year-old with my daughter's permission, of course. So I told Spirit, because Spirit was the one who said to me, you ought to write a chapter on children. I said, I don't know what to write. I said, if you want that chapter written, then you write it. So I turned myself over to Spirit, and they wrote the chapter. You'll see that. So I haven't done it with him yet, but I hope to. And maybe that'll be a whole new avenue of teaching for me. Who knows? We'll see. So how do you do it, right? That's the big question. Well, anybody can learn how to do soul writing. It's no trick to it. It's Most people get something the first time that they try it. But if you practice at it, everyone will succeed. Sometimes it's a little more difficult for people who are analytical because they don't want to get out of that control, and so people that are more on the creative end of it usually do better with this. But I taught this class in Austin, Texas at a Unity Church down there. And I remember there was an attorney in the audience, which really surprised me. And at the end of the session, she just burst into tears. And I said, "What's wrong?" She said, "I just didn't think I could ever write like this." I thought, well, writing a brief, I guess, is a lot different from writing with soul writing. So she was really impressed by it. So that's why I said anybody could do it. Just be patient with yourself. So how do you do it? Well, here's how. Now, I came up with several steps to do. Now, some of these you only need to do once, and then they're yours for all time. So the first thing is find a sacred space. Everybody has a sacred space somewhere, right? There's a space in your home where you do your spiritual work, or you feel most connected to spirit. So quiet and privacy, soft lighting, comfortable place to sit, those are all the basic requirements. So feel out the energy of whatever space you're in, test different rooms, and then sense where you feel the most peaceful and centered, and then claim that space. Now, once you do this, and once you get used to doing the soul writing, you can do it anywhere. I've done it on an airplane. I've done it in a conference. I've done it on the balcony of a hotel. You could do it anywhere once you're used to it. But in the beginning, if you're doing it at home, find a place that feels right to you and then claim that one. Then set the stage if you choose to. So you can surround yourself with things that just help you get into a deeper state of meditation. So I have artwork in my office. Some people like to have candles on, or they like to be around crystals or light incense, or the sound of music in the background. You could put whatever meditative music you enjoy in the background, or surround yourself with totems. It doesn't matter, whatever it is that helps you feel more connected to spirit. Same time, same place. This is what advice Edgar Cayce gave. He said it could be well that an hour or period be chosen for such activities when there is quiet and when the mental and material body may become perfectly relaxed. And such periods should be chosen as an exact period. Say, as an illustration, 10 to 10:30 in the evening, the period is chosen. Basically, what you're doing is you're making a date with spirit. You're saying, okay, spirit, I'm going to show up every day at 9 p.m. I'll be in my office. I'll have my pen. I'll do my meditation. And would you show up and converse with me? And they will, because they know that you're waiting for them. And it's like we're creatures of habit, right? So if you get into the habit of doing it at the same time in the same place, it'll jumpstart the process. After a while, you don't need to do that anymore. You don't need to be at the same time in the same place. You could do it anywhere. But beginners, this is really good advice. I did it the same time, same place when I first started doing it. And like I said, now I can do it anytime, any place. I get a sense that they want to communicate because I feel like a little buzzing. I tell my friends, I'm getting buzzed. They think that's very funny. Pen or keyboard? Well, that's a matter of preference for you. I would say experiment with one for a few days and switch over. I always write with a pen because when you're on the keyboard, because you're in an altered state of consciousness and your eyes are sort of halfway closed, if you move over just a tiny bit, you'll get nothing but gibberish. So I use the pen, write out the message, and then I'll transfer it to the computer. Now, some people do it on the computer all the time, on the keyboard, and they're perfectly fine with it. I know Julia Cameron, who wrote The Artist's Way, does her work directly on the keyboard. But and so did Ruth Montgomery. But it's up to you. I have done it on the keyboard. I admit that I have done it that way, but I prefer to do it with the pen. I like the feel. It feels different. It's slower, obviously. I like the way the pen looks on the page. You can use whatever writing instrument you want. You can use a fountain pen, which is what I like, or you can use a gel pen or a pencil, a Sharpie, whatever you like. You could write on in a journal or on a paper bag. It doesn't much matter, just as long as the message gets out there. As I mentioned earlier, meditation is key. This was Cayce's suggestion, to sit with a subdued or shaded light with paper, pencil, or materials before self at a desk or table. Enter then in this silence each evening at this specific time. So this is one of the steps that you don't skip, no matter how experienced you are. So I say this is for experienced meditators or novice. I skipped this once or twice because I got a little cocky and thought I didn't need to do it. And I did get into trouble with the automatic writings coming in. So I know from experience that this is a step that you really need to make sure that you do. I always say a prayer of protection. I mentioned that earlier. This is a prayer that Edgar Cayce gave. But like I said, you could use your own prayer. I'll use a different prayer when I work with you tonight. Or you could use the unity prayer of protection, whatever you want to say is fine, as long as it just asks that you be kept safe. Then focus on a question. So think about what's troubling you, right? Ask a question and be as concise as you can be. So there's no question on Spirit's end about what it is you're asking. I always say the more profound the question, the more profound the answer. If you ask a silly question, you're going to get a silly answer. And if you don't have a question, if there's nothing specific that you're wondering about, then go ahead and ask for a message for your highest. Like, what do I need to know at this point in time? And then get ready to write. So some of the keys here are trust in the process. Don't think about it too much. Just get out of the way. Don't manipulate or force the words. Just because a word's coming and you don't want it to go in that direction, you don't change it. Just see what comes of it. Silently state or write your intent. So I always say write your question at the top of the page so you can focus on it. Date the page so that you could go back and read it and know at what point in time you were asking that. Keep your wrists loose and then open your eyes halfway. The reason I say not all the way open is because you might break the connection to Spirit if your eyes are completely open. And then let the message proceed. Cayce says, do not grow weary if in turns with self nothing comes for perhaps days, or that much is given at one period in the beginning and little or nothing later. The important thing about this is don't let your internal editor worry about spelling or grammar. This drives my teacher friends crazy. Don't stop to dot your I's. Don't stop to cross your T's. Don't worry about punctuation. Don't worry about spelling or capitalization. Many times when you're doing this writing, if you're doing it by hand, you're going to go all across the paper and then the pen won't even leave the paper. It won't put spaces between words. It'll just keep writing and then it'll keep going back and forth and back and forth. I like to, for those of us that are older, remember the old manual typewriters. We'd be sitting and typing and then, the carriage goes all the way to the right and then you got to flip it back to go to the next line. That's kind of the way the writing is. It just keeps going like this. So don't worry about, because you could correct it once you commit it to the keyboard. But if you're doing it by hand, just let it flow. We're looking for stream of consciousness writing here. So just let it flow through you. And then keep your writing safe. I stress this because I got in trouble from having someone in the family read some parts of my journal that they shouldn't have been reading. And the reason for that is because when you're working with Spirit, it's like being in a therapist's office, like you're laying on the chaise and you're opening yourself up and you're talking about issues and problems and trying to work them out. Like, what do I do about this? And if somebody were to read that out of context, they wouldn't understand. They would come to another conclusion. So if you get a message that's generic enough to share with everybody, by all means do. But if it's personal, then really keep it safe, keep it to yourself. Here's a few do's and don'ts. 1, you can expect your life to change if you do this on a regular basis. you can use soul writing to supplement therapy. It's not a replacement for therapy, it's a supplement to therapy. So if you feel you need the help of a trained professional, then by all means seek that out and then just use the soul writing to augment that therapy. I say watch what you eat and drink, because sometimes what you eat or drink will either speed up your metabolism or it'll slow it down, and then you won't get an optimal message. It's not unusual to feel tired when you first do this. I used to feel really tired, and then after doing it for such a long time, it started to energize me. And now when I do it, I'm like, I'm like really excited and full of energy. Like I said before, if you don't know what to ask, just request a message and then watch for synchronicities, and then always say thank you. That's important, to thank Spirit. So what can you ask Spirit? Well, these are some very common questions, like what are you working on in this lifetime? What are your issues? If you have a relationship problem with your parents or your siblings or your spouse or your friends or colleagues, you can explore that. If you're feeling alone, you could talk about that. If you're dealing with a lack of self-confidence or self-esteem, you can ask, where did this come from? How do I overcome it? If you wonder why you overeat or undereat, many times that's a past life issue. Well, all of these could be. So you can find out about that. If you feel abandoned or if you're distrustful, you can explore that. People are overly critical of you. You can ask why, what it is that, about me that they're responding so negatively to. If you're dealing with an illness and you want to know what its source, soul writing is good for that. Maybe you have deep-seated anger and resentment towards somebody or something, or vice versa. They have that toward you. Maybe you have a bitterness towards someone and you don't know why. You just feel that way about them. There are some people you meet and you instantly dislike them, or you instantly fall in love with them. So there's a reason for that, and soul writing can help you get to that reason. Maybe you're jealous of someone, or you have to deal with someone who's jealous of you. Or do you feel something or someone is holding you back? You can ask about that. So these are just some questions that you can ask Spirit, but I'm sure you have questions of your own that you can ask. So when we get ready to do this together tonight, I'm going to ask you to formulate a question. So just think about an area that you want to focus on and then compose that one well-worded, succinct question to ask Spirit. If you want to do it as a mental mantra, you can do that. Just keep it in your head so Spirit knows exactly what you're asking for. I'm going to have you close your eyes and just totally relaxed. I will put the white light around you. I'll say the prayer of protection. Then you'll open your eyes very slightly. I want you to keep your hand and your wrist loose and start by making ovals. If you keep the pen moving, out of those ovals will come an E or an L or an M. And then out of that will come a word, and out of that will come a phrase, and then out of that will come a sentence, and then out of that will come a paragraph. If you don't get a word, but you are getting a message in your head, go ahead and write that down, and then go back to making the ovals just to jumpstart it. Let go, step aside, don't try to control anything. Allow the writing to proceed until it stops. You'll know instinctively when the message is over. There's usually, I liken it to an Oreo cookie. In the beginning, you get the hello, we're so glad you're here. And then in the middle is the meat of the message. And then at the end is the goodbye. We'll see you next time kind of a message. And then just say a silent thank you. So before we do the meditation, does anybody have a question? No? Okay, then we will do the meditation. So if you haven't already, I would love for you to have paper and pen nearby in front of you. I'm going to lead you in a short reverie. It'll help you to get into the writing process. So I'm going to ask you, I'll ask you to close your eyes. I'll do the deep breathing, the relaxation. I'll say the prayer of protection. I'll surround you with the white light. If you prefer, you can say your own prayer. Visualize whatever shield is comfortable for you. That'll safeguard you in the session. And then when we conclude the prayer, you can open your eyes halfway, sort of sleepy-like. And just, as I said, keep your hand and your wrist loose. Don't put any stress on the pen. I want you to have no expectations with this. Just have some fun with it. But remember always, you're in control. So you shouldn't be receiving any four-letter words or commands. If you do, you're with the wrong folks. So you need to stop writing, reinforce that white light protection, and start over again. Just ask Spirit to make sure that only your highest and best come to you. Because if you're working with the right energy, you'll sense that they're going to give you some suggestions and nudges, but they're never going to give you a command. So like I said, you could focus on a question or ask something generic. Let's see, what else do I need to tell you? I think I covered it all. I want you to feel safe in this. Just go with the flow. Just trust yourself. Don't be afraid. Think of it as visiting an old friend that you haven't seen in a while. There's just so much that you want to say, and you can't wait to get started. Now, you will be aware of what it is you're writing, and you'll be in control at all times. So at any point in time, if you want to stop, you can stop. It's just important that you get out of the way and just let go. And then I'm going to give you about 5-7 minutes or so to do the writing. But if you stop beforehand, that's fine. Just stop and put the pen down and wait, and then I'll bring everybody back. Okay? And then if you'd like, you could share what you received in the writing. Now, this is where it gets very quiet in my classes, because people don't want to share, but I encourage you to do so. Or encourage you to just tell me what the experience was like for you. Because soul writing is a very powerful tool of transformation. And it's our birthright to communicate with that still small voice within. And we can all do that. That's one of the tools we were given when we came to Earth. It was tucked in our little backpack when we started our curriculum here on planet Earth. So if you get into trouble, Spirit wants you to know that they're there for you 24/7. It's like a 24/7 phone home card. That's why I look at it. So I hope you will too. So, okay, I'd like you to all get comfortable right now. Just don't cross your legs. Put your journal either on your lap or on the table in front of you if you're at a table. Hold the pen in your hand now so that you don't fumble to get it later. So, we're ready for our magical mystery tour. I want you to close your eyes now and just relax. Begin to breathe deeply and imagine yourself sitting alongside a gently flowing stream as you breathe in and exhale ever so slowly, ever so comfortably, feeling every part of your body relaxing and sinking deeply into the chair. There's nothing to think about, nowhere to go, just breathing deeply and letting go, settling into the peaceful sounds of the running brook beside you. And as you do, just feel the quietness of Spirit enveloping you, taking you to a safe and loving place deep within. Slow down your thoughts. If something comes into your mind that distracts you, just brush it aside and return your attention to your breath as you continue to breathe deeply and relax completely. So every part of you is relaxing now, starting with the toes of your feet, moving into the ball and into your arches, into your heels, and right on up to your ankles, moving into your legs and knees, your thighs and your hips. Feel the fingers of both of your hands relaxing as it goes into your forearms and your upper arms, moving now into the base of your spine. Then slowly that relaxation is moving into the back of your neck and shoulder muscles that are now loose and limp. Your facial muscles are relaxed. Your eyes feel tired and heavy. Your jaw and your throat are completely relaxed. Your entire body is now relaxed all over in every way. And a quietness of spirit fills your body and mind. and you feel at ease and peacefully centered, in balance and in harmony, open and receptive to hear that still small voice within and become a channel communicating with the all that is through soul writing. All you need do is step outside yourself and allow the energy of the creative forces to communicate with you through your hand. But before we begin the writing, let's spiritually protect ourselves during this session. So I'd like you to visualize a bright white light coming from above and entering the top of your head, your crown chakra. Envision an iridescent, bright white light entering your crown chakra and beginning to flow through every part of your being, totally surrounding you in an aura of protection. To strengthen that shield, I'm going to say a prayer of protection. You can say it along with me, or you can say one of your own. Mother, Father, God, we ask that the divine light that emanates from the essence of your being descend upon us, surrounding us with an iridescent aura, protecting us from all things seen and unseen that are in opposition to our greater good. We ask it, and so it is. All right, now in just a moment, you'll begin writing. When you do, simply hold your eyes just barely open as you stare blankly at the paper. Remember to keep your pen moving at all times, and if you aren't getting words on the paper, but a message comes into your mind, go ahead and write that down. All right, now here we go. At the count of 3, you'll begin to write. Number 1, number 2, number 3. Begin writing. we have about another minute, so why don't you finish your thought, finish up your writing. All right, it's time to stop writing. Return to full consciousness now. Thank the source of the information that was given to you. And then when you're ready, slowly open your eyes, come back ever so gently. Open your eyes, recall the situation in the room, be wide awake, feel alert and at peace. But before we start sharing, I wanted to give you my contact information. You can go to my website, you could read more about soul writing. I have a monthly newsletter and it has a monthly soul writing message from Spirit, so that I do. Also has a case study in reincarnation and past life work you could read. And these are the other books that I have written that Carol mentioned to you. They're all on Amazon. So if you just look under my name. Your Soul Remembers is how to get your past life information through soul writing. I Did It to Myself Again is about the life between life, the pre-life planning session. I mentioned Karma Can Be a Real Pain. Edgar Cayce, and this book about Thomas Jefferson Reborn was about a little baby that Cayce did a reading on when he was 2 days old and said he was the reincarnation of Thomas Jefferson and Alexander the Great. And he said that that soul could do for the world what Jefferson did for this country, and he didn't end up doing that. He just went a different direction. And my book is really about why, what happened. It's all about free will, basically. The Inner Light is how the Beatles planted the spiritual seed in our generation, our souls. I will admit that I was president of a Beatles fan club when I was a teenager, so now you can figure out how old I am. And then Soulmates and Twin Souls, which I presented at the last Reincarnation Book Club, is also one of my books.